No, alhamdulillah, I believe it was my sixth Hajj. And for the years before COVID, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was giving us the opportunity. I apologize, my voice is still gone. Just came back Saturday night, and takes the voice going and the body getting a little sick is hopefully a sign of acceptance, inshallah. But before COVID, we were going every year, and it was quite beautiful despite the challenges that come with Hajj. And then COVID came. And then when COVID came, many people lost the ability of doing the things that they enjoy most, which was to be with family, friends, to go out, have a good time, enjoy, socialize. And there were some people, not people like ourselves, but righteous people who truly lost some of the more enjoyable things of life, such as communal worship. And one of the greatest forms of communal worship is Hajj. The greatest day of the year is the day of Arafah, for many reasons, but one of the main reasons that Imam Ghazali rahimahullah mentions is actually because it's the day where the most Muslims gather on one spot to worship Allah. And there's a lot to be said in worship that is being done as a jama'ah in comparison to worship that is being done individually. Any worship that is done in groups is oftentimes far more rewarding than worship that is being done alone, even if it is something as simple as reading Quran. The Prophet says that a person who reads Quran in a group, their reward is different than a person who reads Quran alone. Now, of course, khushu' and a person's conviction that they gain from there, that's all the objectives of it. We're talking about the simple default reward. The reward of praying salat in a jama'ah is 25 to 27 times greater than the reward of praying salat alone. All that being said, we lost the ability of going for Umrah and Hajj. We realized that all of these types of worships that Allah has given us access to is not because of who we are, it's actually despite who we are. The moment a person believes that they are doing what they're doing because of who they are, that is a moment of a person leaning towards the qualities of shaitan. Whereas a person, when they are able to achieve some level of goodness in their life, may it be within the social realm, the spiritual realm as well, the educational realm, whatever it may be, professional, this person, when they start believing that I'm here despite the flaws that I possess. People always say it in the professional world, I don't know how I made it here. I don't know how I made it here. That's the same when it comes to our deen. We don't know how we made it here. We're living in a country where every opportunity of disobedience of Allah is extremely available and enticing. It's inviting. It's almost enabling. The people that are involved in it, we oftentimes see them to be, wow, look at how far they're going because of them being present in those gatherings. But the reality is that all of this is because of Allah's tawfiq. And Hajj is no different, Umrah is no different. So when we get invited to go to the house of Allah, we think of it in the same realm as if someone who is, no one can be compared to Allah. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing, no being, no creation that can be compared to the Creator. And that comparison is something that only a fool will attempt to do. But for the sake of the example, if the most honorable person that you honor in this world, you respect, you are in awe of, you are silent because of your respect, honor, and reverence for this person in their presence, and this person somehow finds out where you live and sends you an invite letter that you are invited to their special gathering. How special do people feel when they get invited to the Met Gala? How special do people feel when they get invited to these celebrity types of parties and so on and so forth?
When they get invited to Tabat.
Of course, we can't even. It's not even relatable. That's too much. It's too high, right? It's like Hajj, Thabat, and then, right? But it's actually accurate in so many ways because that's the idea that it leads to, inshallah. But they get so excited, they get invited to this Met Gala, taking pictures, do this, do that. Because the invite, it's not even about where they are. It's about who invited them. And the fact that they were invited by this committee that identifies the most influential, honorable artists, and they were invited by them, is enough for them to feel validated for the rest of the year. And if they were not invited by them, it's enough for them to feel absent for the rest of the year. My dear friends, Umrah, Hajj, and by extension, any worship of life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to be involved in, it's because He invited us. And if Allah invited me, no honorable, generous person will invite you to their home to curse at you, to cause you harm, to belittle you, to confine you. The more honorable and the more generous a person is, if they invite you to their home, they want to give you something. They want to honor you. They want you to feel special because they're very generous. Allah is Jawadun Kareem, Malikun Barru Ra'ufur Rahim. If He is inviting me, He is not inviting me to humiliate me. He is not inviting me to tell me how bad I am.
Can I ask a question about this idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inviting you? I think the first thought that comes to my mind is it costs $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, etc. You know, however, I know different people can get it from different ways, etc. But like for the average person, I think they might hear this and have that question of like, okay, well, Allah's inviting me. Well, why am I not invited? Because I can't afford $15,000, $20,000. How do you reconcile these ideas? The idea that there's these physical barriers that are very like material.
I mean, so like if a person doesn't have the financial and physical means, there are certain people who get the reward of doing an act of goodness but have never done it. And there are certain people who get the sin of doing an act though they've never committed that sin. Who? Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma says that worse than the person who committed the sin is a person who heard about that sin and in their heart and mind they simply wished that they were also able to do it. That person is worse than the sinner. I wish I was also able to go there. I wish I was also able to commit that sin. That person is actually worse than the sinner. Similarly, a person who is sitting there hears about, this is why it's important to speak about the journeys of worship, because the person that is sitting there that makes not only the intention, but says, I wish Allah took me as well. That sense of urgency and earnestness that a person has in their genuine thirst of earning Allah's pleasure and nearness and being in the domain of Allah's house is enough for this person to earn the reward of an Umrah or a Hajj. It's not the goal is not to simply go there. The goal is to take the lessons that we can receive from there and bring them back. Many people, the Prophet of Allah says, and this is the scary reality, that the Prophet says, رُبَّ صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعُ وَرُبَّ قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا السَّهَرُ. Man, people walked 25, 30 miles almost every day in Hajj, man. Some people, they walked from Mecca, the Kaaba, walked in the scorching hot heat sun of Mecca, 125 degrees Fahrenheit, all the way to Mina. Didn't have tents. Walked to Arafah. Walked to Muzdalifah. I mean, these people literally lost their lives. Some people might think that what a catastrophe. Indeed, logistically it was. But for those who lost their lives, what a blessing. Person becomes shaheed while wearing their ihram, they already have their kafan on. Their shroud is already on. Right? So there's so much effort in being able to, a lot of people, we have the means, we're just afraid because it's not that easy. But so is school hard. So is being a parent. So is going to grad school. So is leaving your hometown and moving somewhere else. Everything is hard. But we don't see inconvenience in our dunyawi affairs to be the same as the inconvenience that we see in our ukhrawi affairs. People don't like to be inconvenienced. In life, comfort is our closest ally. Everyone wants to remain comfortable. No one likes the idea, and I'm going to go on this quick tangent and come back. No one likes the idea of being uncomfortable. Not you, not me. Being uncomfortable is a scary space. People are in three tiers when it comes to inconvenience. The first tier of people that don't mind being inconvenienced is 95% of the world. So if we're amongst them, we're not special. And that is those are people who are ready to be inconvenienced, though it's against our nafs to be inconvenienced. These are people who are ready to be inconvenienced for some level of progress in their dunya. So if that means I have to stay awake late at night to prep for my exam, that is indeed inconvenience, but it's okay because it'll pay off. The outcome that this inconvenience is serving is extremely attractive. Therefore, it's okay for me to do. 95% of the world is ready to do this. The second layer of inconvenience is less people. These are people who are prepped and prepared to enter into an area of inconvenience for the progress of someone else's dunya. Very few people. Parents, siblings, loved ones. A mother and father will do anything to struggle so that their son or daughter could have a life that is even a little bit better than theirs, more comfortable than theirs, more ease than theirs, even a little bit better. That's all of our parents that moved here and struggled to live here in this country. The third tier are very few people. And how fortunate are these people? You know, the idea of being less in the Islamic context is actually extremely special. قَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشُّكُورِ. You're talking about gratitude. Allah, anywhere He speaks about qaleel in the Quran, it's actually always in the positive context. Few are the anomaly because it's special in the eyes of Allah in these situations. So the third are those people who are prepared to be inconvenienced for their progress in akhirah. They're prepared for it. They don't mind, because inconvenience can only become a reality for a person if the outcome that they're pursuing is attractive to them. People find it difficult to be inconvenienced for akhirah because we have not allowed ourselves to truly understand the beauty of it. And the moment it becomes attractive, then there's no way I will hold back in being inconvenienced for it. Because it's very attractive. And what Hajj does for a person when they walk all those miles and they struggle from place to place is that they realize, I'm wearing these two pieces of cloth. This is the reality. There's no difference between me and anyone else over here. If people can't tell the difference between me and this person while living in this world, how in the world will I be identified and noticed on the Day of Judgment when the entirety of humanity is there? If I'm not even recognizable right now, despite whoever I think I potentially am, how will I be recognized on the Day of Judgment when everyone will be present? It's extremely humbling. And the only thing that can make a person recognizable at that moment are their body parts, which are shining because of their worship. Their ibadah is what becomes the distinguishing factor of a believer. And the absence of ibadah is what is the distinguishing factor for a munafiq. And the difference is just a'mal. So for us, it's not about going for Hajj per se. There are many companions that didn't spend much time with Prophet ﷺ. The objective was actually taking these beautiful benefits and reflections that lead towards positive change from these journeys. Many people never became hafid or alim, scholars. But they sat on the feet of scholars and they made it further than them. Because they just wanted to earn Allah's love because who they saw. You all probably didn't go for Hajj this year, but you may be able to reach a point that is even better than those who went for Hajj. Because the intentions that you make while you're sitting in this gathering, Allah does not gauge us. The metric of reward in the eyes of Allah is not our emotions. It is not our emotions. That is a sad reality, but also a fulfilling reality. Because emotions can be challenging. Sometimes we cry, sometimes we don't cry. The metric in the eyes of Allah are good deeds. What do I have to show? I was emotional. I was in a moment of, I was struggling. Did I pray 2 raka'ah in those moments? Those 2 raka'ah are worth more to Allah than 2 raka'ah while I was enjoying. A'mal is a metric. So the last part of this, which is all of us can take from it, is the meaning of Hajj. And I'll leave you with that for this question. The meaning of Hajj. Anyone know the meaning of Hajj? Anyone? All of our ibadat have lexical meanings and they have shari'i meanings, like that came from the sharia. But they all have like the Arabic meaning as well. Like salat actually means supplication, right? Because that's the purpose of salat, is to take from Allah's treasures. Sawm, fasting, actually means patience. Because the goal of fasting is to be patient to our desires. The meaning of Hajj is to be intentional. There's not a single thing that you could be doing in Hajj that you're not intentional about. No one ends up in Hajj accidentally. Like, you have to be really intentional to be there. You had to leave your family, you had to, pocket out 10, 15K, which, by the way, if you start planning from now, if you calculate how much money we spend on our vacations over the span of 2-3 years, just hold it up. I'll tell you, and after Hajj, all the mashayikh would agree, do Hajj while you're young. Because the amount of change that it'll bring into your life when you need it is uncomparable to that when you become old. Number one. Number two, you can do everything to the best degree because you're still young enough, you can still do everything the way you want to. And number three, the best Hajj is a Hajj where you can serve people. And you can't serve people when you always need to be served. If you can't push someone's wheelchair, it's a struggle. Like, one of the metrics that we had, me and my brother were competing in, is how many people did we push there? How many wheelchairs did we push in Hajj? Because that's a Hajj that is accepted, where you help people because no one else wants to help you in Hajj. Everyone else is like, we're finished. So Hajj is to be intentional. So the idea of Hajj, while we're here for all of us, is we have to be intentional in our changes. So we all make intention of 1 or 2 things that we will add to our life, 1 or 2 things that we will remove from our life. And we actually make azm for it. Azm means a strong conviction to Allah with a vow that, Ya Allah, I really want to do this. And then the question comes, Tariq is, but how do I actually stop it? Ya Allah, I don't know. You make me stop. Ya Allah, you are Qadir. How am I going to start praying Fajr every day? Ya Allah, I don't know. You make me do it. Ya Allah, you made me weak. How do you expect me to do it? I'm a weak person. I gain strength from you. You give me the ability to do it. You give me the ability to pray Fajr every day. You give me the ability to stop listening to haram. You give me the ability of stop speaking haram. It's all from Allah. If I think it's me, we'll never do it. It's all from Allah. And we make intention. That's what Hajj means. So if you all want something that we all can do despite us not going for Hajj, first of all, we all make dua that Allah takes us for Hajj and Umrah.
Ameen.
And make a strong promise that, Allah, when you give me the ability, I will go.
Ameen.
Number two, the entire maqsad and objective of Hajj is intentional change. Right? That's why we come back as newborns. Right? Like, we're intentional changes. All of us can make intentional changes as well. And even though we didn't go for Hajj, Allah gives us the reward of it, inshallah. Allah is Kareem. He doesn't reward us based upon our results. He rewards us based upon our effort. And that's all that really matters.
Barakallah fiqh. Mufti Saab, I have a couple points and a question.
Take your time.
So one brief reflection, this idea of intentionality. I think what sometimes happens for us when we're trying to make a change in our lives is this wrestling of, am I trying too much or am I doing too much, and do I have to kind of stop for a little bit? Like, am I trying in the wrong direction? Like, I have a friend who good friend of mine. He said something. He was like, I've realized I need to try less. He's like, I keep on trying to make things happen. We were talking about marriage.
Okay.
I was telling him, you got to get married.
That's fair.
Yeah. He's like, I think I'm just gonna wait for it. Like,
You didn't tell him to come to Thabat?
I did not. No, I'm just joking.
Missed an opportunity.
I'm pretty sure I told him a lot, many times before that. At some point, I stopped telling people. But a friend of mine, subhanallah, he's not from the area, and so I'm telling him, when are you gonna do it? And he's like, I've realized, I just have to be like chill about the whole thing. I'm just gonna be passive, and whatever Allah wants will happen. This idea of like, just kind of stop exerting yourself. And I was like, that's wrong. And he's like, well, who knows? And I'm like, no, I know it's wrong. Like, it's actually wrong for you to say that. Particularly, let's say I'll say this for men and for women, but I think it's particularly like jarring if a man just says, I'm just going to wait. And so I told him, I was like, rizq is something that you have to have an aspect of effort for. If marriage is part of your sustenance, part of your rizq, a condition of getting your sustenance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that you exert yourself in some degree of effort. So for you to withhold that and say, I'm not going to try, and whatever Allah wills will happen, is you actually putting the brakes on receiving your sustenance. You've chosen not to exert. And what that effort looks like could be different for different people. For some people, that effort might mean going and knocking on different doors, right? For other people, it might be changes that they have to make with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in their heart. Maybe they need to go and change how they're processing and thinking about things emotionally. But there has to be some type of effort that a person is making, at least between themselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I want to bring that to the idea of intentionality, because إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, actions are by their intentions. And you were connecting this with the idea that Hajj is intentionality. And obviously, I think for many people in our age group, when it comes to Hajj, we are not intentionally planning for it whatsoever. Like, it's not even on the radar. We're like, okay, I need to pay off my loans, I need to get my house, I need to get the mahr, I need to get whatever the different goals are that we have financially. Hajj doesn't really...
Make your mahr Hajj. Make your mahr Hajj.
Ladies, that's a piece of advice.
You could tell your soon-to-be husband, I want the other money too, but I want Hajj part of my mahr, to get it done soon. And I'm telling the young couples that were there, they really enjoyed Hajj because, imagine the change taking place together as a couple. Just got married a few years ago. It's fairly beautiful.
Fellas, I wouldn't recommend you offer it.
It's getting expensive.
I refuse to give you anything but Hajj. Let's start from there. But subhanAllah, I wanted to bring this point because of this idea of intentions behind our actions and being very intentional and what that actually looks like. And I think it's easy to talk about what intention looks like, and I wanted to just get your advice. What does it actually mean to be intentional? And forget the conversation of Hajj, because if I can't be intentional to wake up for Fajr. And you mentioned the idea of telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's definitely one of it, right? Is that you actually make dua. So you're saying this is a part of your niyyah, that you intend to do something, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. What else could I do to be intentional?
I think it starts, most things we look at when it comes to deen, we go the opposite in how we look at dunya. In dunya, we go macro to micro. In deen, we go micro to macro. And the way it should work to be intentional is we become intentional about life itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةِ, whosoever lives their life with the intentionality in the lens of akhirah primarily as their frame of reference. That is the first W that we get. أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةِ. That everyone else in this world looks at profit and loss, growth and regression through the lens of dunya. The lens that everyone wears a different lens. Someone wears a lens of capitalism, someone wears a lens of socialism. We wear the lens of akhirah. وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةِ means that we see the definitions of life to revolve around those things that the Prophet taught us. So for us, profit and loss is what the Prophet taught us. Everyone that says that giving wealth is loss, that's because they look at loss through what? The lens of dunya. And the Prophet taught us, no, that's not loss. That's actually what? Profit. Everyone that sees success and failure to be in what the world sees it to be, they see what's happening in Gaza for them to be failure. And for the people who are living it, they see it to be success because akhirah is given to them. Not for us, it's not a success for us. It's actually the biggest failure on our part that we can't do more to support them. Let's not be confused or amused with ourselves. It's a failure on my part. That my du'as and my attempts and my efforts and Muslim countries' efforts are completely absent. But for them it's a success because they made it. So how do you, intentionality, Habibi, is arad al-akhirah. Everyone wants to change the painting on their wall from A to a Kaaba. Great. We want to change the rug from a nice rug like this to a rug that has pictures of beautiful masjids or Spanish architecture. That stuff is not change. Change is I change the pictures that define success in my heart. What is success for me and my children? What is success for me and my family? What is success? When I wake up in the morning, how do I define a good day? If I don't have a clear way of defining a good day for myself, how in the world will I be able to define a good life for myself? Like we always think micro. And these are ways that a person justifies their inability to make major changes in their life. Because they want to just pacify themselves with those things that can just get them through. Arad al-akhirah. The Sahaba didn't make small changes. They made a change of a lens. And by the way, when you change the lens, doesn't mean you lose everything. They still had their wealth. They still had their family. But the lens changed. So intentionality doesn't mean that everything is done just for the akhirah. No. Everything is done keeping the akhirah in mind. In simpler words, everything is done keeping the akhirah in mind means that if it harms my akhirah, I won't do it. If it benefits my akhirah, I will do it. Having children, family, good jobs, wealth, all of that can benefit my akhirah. Why would I not do it? But the moment it harms it, I step away from it despite the fact that there is profitability in the horizontal realm of it, but not in the vertical realm. So intentionality comes from lifestyle. Like the intentionality of Hajj alayhi salam and Hajj was that I don't care what happens, I will continue doing what I'm doing until Allah hears my dua. She ran back and forth from the same place 7 times. Safa and Marwa is the hardest part of Umrah. It's so difficult to do despite the fact that it's AC floors and an AC complete, the whole place is AC-fied, whatever you want to call it. There's water coolers there, there's Zamzam everywhere. Everything is so simple. But it's the hardest part of Umrah and Hajj because of how difficult the walk is and how irrational it is. I have to do the same thing 7 times. Like if you were in the shoes of Hajar, like you go there once, it's not there. It's not going to show up the second time. You're living in a desert. What's going to change? You know what we do? Well, I went to the masjid last Friday and my dua wasn't accepted. Why would I go next Friday? The definition of what she did was called sa'i, right? It's called what? Sa'i. Sa'i by definition in Arabic is to do the same thing over and over again until we see our results. It's the opposite of what the people of the world say. The people of the world say only a fool will do something twice hoping for different results. And a believer will say only a fool will change if this is the process that was given to us by the divine. Because we know the results will come. It was never a question of whether or not the result will come. The question was always, Mata Nasrullah? When would the result come? And that when is the ultimate test for everyone. The youngster who's trying to get married, or the young sister that's trying to get married, their challenge is, okay, mata, when? The family is trying to have a child, the challenge is what? When? The person who's looking for a job, the challenge is when? Person who's lost his loved one, the challenge is when will I go there too? It's all about the when, and that's the challenge of life. But all of that is to say, her running back and forth was to say to Allah, I'm not stopping until you give me my results. And Allah gave her Zamzam, then she stopped. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah says she would have done it 70 times. I mean, Allah, thank you for giving it to her at 7. Or else we would have to go 70 as well.
Yeah.
So that was intentional. Not intentional because the outcome was clear. Intentional because Allah was clear.
Allah.
We don't have to be intentional because it's a proven process. We have to be intentional because the person is proven to us. It's mutajarrab. Allah doesn't get, no one walks into, I was mentioning the story, like no one walks into an Apple store saying that I want to test your product. Except for Samsung users. May Allah forgive you all. Like no one walks into an Apple store saying, I want to test the MacBook. Brother, test the MacBook? You're losing your mind? This is the most trialed and tested product out there. Either you get it or you don't get it. You're not testing there's no like, you can't test this. Because it's proven. We don't test Allah. Allah is proven. Allah's system is proven. Allah's domain is proven. And Allah's ability is far beyond proven. If He can give water to Hajar within the heat of Mecca, where there was no one around except for Allah, then why can't Allah support me in my search of rizq? The difference is not that Allah changed. Neither is the difference the process changed. The difference is how much conviction do I have in Allah? She did it 7 times. Don't count. The reality is she would have done as many times as it was needed until she saw Zamzam for Ismail. That land was a barren desert, my friends. Intentionality was, I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. My life is for the sake of Allah. Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyayi wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. My entire life is for Allah. Your and my existence is here in America because Allah chose us to be here so Islam can spread from this country. There was a time where Sham was not Muslim. The entire Sham became Muslims because people were intentional in why they moved there. There was a time where Persia, where all these great scholars like Imam Bukhari came from, was not a land of Muslims. The entire land was filled with Muslims because people were intentional about macro level things. That if I move to this country is so that I can bring deen to this country. We're not simply here to take from them, we're here to give them. They have everything we already have. And we have everything that they're dying for, which is akhirah. We simply need to show them that we have it. That's for us intentionality. We have to have intentions to change our lifestyles. And of course, we make efforts. And we struggle. Kullu ibn Adama khata. We struggle. It's all right. Allah's created us weak. We seek tawbah. Allah will give us ability because we sought tawbah. But don't leave this gathering without having true plans on not how to change A or B, how to change this in the lens. If the lens changes, everything else comes. If everything else changes but the lens doesn't, all of that is actually being done to benefit our dunya. Like, I'll make my son hafid. Why? Because people respect me more. So even the things of akhirah become a pursuit because of dunya we benefit. Not ukhra we benefit, which is the most dangerous thing to be done. Wallahu a'lam.
Barakallah feek, Mufti Abdul Wahab. As a just closing reflection, inshallah, as we come to the end of our time. Hajj teaches us then, from the way that I'm kind of summarizing this, bi'idhnillah. If you have a need that you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill, whether it's worldly or whether what we should all want is the afterlife, you take the means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you and you keep walking down that path, going back and forth between those mountains, just like Hajar did. You keep going back and forth and back and forth. And if you don't see the results, you stay steadfast because you know that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you is being fulfilled just by you taking the steps of that journey.
100%.
And it's going to be from an a worldly perspective, sometimes fruitless.
Yeah.
You won't see the worldly changes. But the reality is that you'll still be fulfilling the purpose that Allah wants for you. And for you to rush it is maybe an indication that what you want is different than what Allah wants for you. وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةِ, as Mufti Abdul Wahab said. The person who actually wants the afterlife. That's part of the meaning in irada. That there's a wanting. That you actually want this. If you want the akhirah, if you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make the afterlife what your heart wants. It can't be secondary. If the primary thing that you're thinking about when you're coming to and you're bowing your head in sujood, or you're coming to a righteous gathering, or you're trying to seek good company, if the primary thing that you really want is something worldly, you will remain feeling unfulfilled as you go back and forth between those mountains. Because what you really want is simply something that is worldly. And that's going to stop you. But when what you really want is the afterlife, you can stay remaining, keeping it going. Back and forth in the heat of the desert, despite all of the challenges, because you know that your need will be fulfilled on the journey, not just on the end. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who are steadfast. We ask Allah to make us from among those who take the lessons from our righteous predecessors and the prophets. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from among those who, just because we did not have the opportunity to experience the Hajj right now, we still make it a part of the source of our motivation. That we remember these stories, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give us 10 different rituals from the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam that He said, do these throughout the year. He gave us Hajj. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, does anybody know how many times he went on Hajj? Once. It was one Hajj that he went on.
Last year of his life.
The last year of his life. And had he would have done it again had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given him more life. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote for him one Hajj. Set it as an obligation for yourself, as a goal, that while you have some life in you right now, that it's a priority. And yeah, it's difficult, but it should be something that we intend, because actions are by their intentions. Even if you won't be able to fulfill it for another 30 years. But take the means right now. If that means putting aside $30, $50 a month, whatever it is. And by the way, take the spirituality out of it. This is a good general life practice, that you take a portion of your funds and you say, these are my savings. And make that your intention, that my savings are lillah.
By the way, there's a lot of people who have money that don't get accepted.
No.
It's not like, I mean, there's a lot of people now because of nusuk, because there's a process to go through to apply. So many people applied for Hajj that have all the abilities, that have all the money, but they never got accepted. So many people.
Lottery system.
It's not about like having money anymore. Like now it's truly Allah invited the person. And so many people have so much wealth.
No.
But they won't even want to go for Hajj.
No.
Because why? Because Hajj also is the ultimate equalizer. How are you going to be arrogant when you look like the same person next to you?
No.
Like how? Like guess what? What? You got two pieces of cloth? I do too. That's why Hajj is the ultimate unifier.
Yeah.
Like for something that all of us can take before we leave is Hajj unites us. Hajj humbles us. Don't be a person that invites people to your gatherings because they add value to your gathering. Be a person that invites people to your gathering because the gathering adds value to them. Right? Don't only go to, like we get invited to a lot of places. And we go to some places, we don't go to some places. Now look at why you go to some places and why you don't go to some places. The places that we go to, most probably is because when we go there, like everyone, you were invited here too? Oh, wow, yeah, I made it. But we won't go to the gathering where our presence there is such that we feel a little bit humbled. Oh, not everyone here is from this place. Like why? We calculate whose hands we shake. Because we become so reciprocal and incentivized that we only shake people's hands if we can benefit from them. Our invite list is all those people that we can take some benefit from. Very few of them are such that we can actually benefit. Everything is reciprocal. Everything is incentivized. Even beautiful relationships of family members are incentivized. Hajj removes it. You meet everyone and guess what?
No.
You don't know who they are. But you're just nice to them because you have no choice but
I
to be
think
nice.
this year's Hajj was the most. This is, I mean, probably safe to bet that this is the most cameras that were at Hajj ever. I've never seen more photos of scholars without like their hats and their turbans as this year at Hajj.
Oh yeah,
So many mashayikh, so many scholars from around the world. It's like, that's how that guy looks. They all look the same.
that's why they wear kufis.
Hey, some of them have nice heads of hair. MashaAllah, tabarakallah.
Yeah, I do. Alhamdulillah, but I lost it.
Yeah, but it's subhanallah. It was a sight to see, and maybe because, obviously more people since COVID, etc.
Yeah,
Subhanallah.
beautiful.
So it's something beautiful. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that opportunity.